Good evening. This is the March meeting of the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. We have two guest speakers here tonight. We have Dannielle Hille, who is co-chair of the Albany Policing Reinvention Reform Collaborative. So it should be an interesting conversation on that. We have Scott Jemzarbek, who's the Albany Public Library Executive Director, and he'll be giving a community report out. Then we'll have our normal committee reports and officer reports. So a lot coming up. In terms of announcements, I have just a couple. One for Pine Hills members. We now have a new website up and running, which is similar to our old website, but it includes some new features. And most importantly, you can now renew your membership and pay your dues online. So we'd like you to start doing that if you can. We started a little bit late this year because we wanted to have the new website up in order to facilitate your renewal. And new members can join through the website as well. So if someone who's watching this finds it interesting and wants to join the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association, you can do so right online. That's one announcement, and slightly connected to that, we are looking for a new membership chair. John Hammer is hanging up his spurs after many years. So we would like someone to help us out with that. It can be certainly a member of our board or someone else who works with the neighborhood association. We'll be hearing more about that. And hopefully with new technology, we'll be able to make some enhancements in the way we pull the information together, but we'll see how that works. So if that's something you want to think about or know someone who might want to help out with that, it's a great way to get involved. So with that, I'm going to go straight to Dannielle Hille, who's a resident and a member of the Mansion Neighborhood Association, but she's here tonight because she's co-chair of the Albany Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative. So Dannielle, to you, and remember to unmute yourself.
So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dannielle Hille, for anyone who doesn't know me. And I am part of the Mansion neighborhood, and I sat on the police collaborative. I co-chaired the group one, the general orders and the policy group. So I'm just going to share my screen and just bring up the site. I'm going to go over a couple of things, and I'll let you, at this point, it is in the hands of the Common Council. So I'm going to make sure that there's enough time for questions. Can everybody see my screen? So this is the website that the city has prepared for the citizens to follow what we did with the community policing collaborative, or excuse me, the police reform collaborative. So right here, you can find the final draft of it. It also includes the individual working committees drafts. There was 5 working groups altogether. It includes the recordings of the public meetings. It goes through members' bios, and it goes through the process. So we started with some introductory meetings. We then broke into work groups, and we each worked on our perspective groups. My group was a little different than the other ones because we were working with an already existing document and going through it. So our recommendations are, each member provided recommendations for their section, while as the other groups work together to create a newly imagined way of looking at policing. So these are just all the meetings that the different groups had, and all the documents. Everything is here if you want to go back through it, but we'll go right to the report. So on Monday, the Common Council passed a resolution in order to approve the plan that is laid out here, with the understanding that the plan does need additional work in order to be a fully comprehensive plan. The mayor's office utilized the reports done by all 5 of the working groups and created a draft report, which is included in about the first 20 pages of this document. So it goes over items that are considered short-term, which is completion within 12 to 18 months, midterm, which is completion within 18 to 36 months, and long-term, which is 3 to 5 years for implementation. It also goes over things that require authorization, that are budget, and other constraints that may delay process. So each group got an introduction about what the work was, and then we provided recommendations. As I said, the policies and policies SOP and GO, which is standard operating procedures and general orders, was the group that I actually co-chaired, and I'm also one of the people. I, along with Brenda Robinson, did handled media for the collaborative. So for my group, we go step by step through each of the general orders, which is what they're called now, which are the governing rules for the department, and provide recommendations as to each part of that would have an impact. What we did is we chose the parts of the general orders that would have an impact, that could be impacted racially. So we skipped things like uniform color and vehicle maintenance and stuff like that, because those didn't apply to the reason for our the collaborative meeting. So this goes through, the summary includes most of the actions in the general report, although there are some that are not listed in the summary, but are listed in the second half of this report that includes all of our recommendations. Civilian oversight, which is things like the CPRB, which I believe they've just recently changed their name, but that's where a citizen would file a complaint about an interaction with an officer. So they went over things like that. They went over how the community can be more involved in the police department and building community relations. We had the police functions group. The police functions group really focused a lot on what a reimagined police department could look like. They spoke a lot about the different types of staff that could respond to different types of situations, like mental health counselors when there's mental illness, or non-sworn staff to respond to minor traffic accidents and stuff like that. The community safety and restorative justice talked about the way that policing was directed. So they talk about hotspot policing, problem-oriented policing, focused deterrence, and the use of these different types of strategies, along with things like the lead diversion program, and TRACK, which is meant for our youth. It's also part of the neighborhood engagement unit. And then we had recruitment, retention, and promotion training and officer development. So as you guys are probably aware, the police department has been short-staffed now, going on about the 3rd year, I believe it is. The last numbers I got was that we were about 32 officers down, but those are vacancies. We have 32 vacancies because we don't have officers to fill them. But that number does not include officers out on injury or pending retirement. or anything like that. So we still do have a pretty significant number of officers that are out. Our department is also only about, I believe it's 8% minority in a city where we're close to like 45% minority. So they discussed how we could, one, do better recruitment and retention. The city of Albany loses a lot of officers to other departments where they have better pay or better pensions or more pay just based on the number of calls. I want to say not last year? I don't know what last year's was, but I know in 2019 that officers in the city responded to somewhere in the number of like 70,000 calls. So it is a very busy city. So they looked at ways to, one, encourage individuals to become officers, encourage specifically City of Albany residents to become officers, and not residents that became residents for the purpose of becoming a police officer here, but actually people who have a stake and have a pride for Albany. So they discussed that, and also too how to increase minorities and women in the ranks. So those are the 5 groups. This is the summary working plan. And again, it includes the different notations of how long. A is 12 to 18 months. B was 18 to 36 months. In the lower part, you'll find the entire working group reports. So all 5 working groups, their reports in their entirety are with all of their recommendations and any other information that they included can be found in the second portion of the report. And that's, it's gone from the Common Council. They ultimately have final decision as to what that final plan is. They will take the recommendations of the 5 working groups, and they will work with the members and with the public. There'll be public hearings that'll provide time for people to discuss the plan as it comes up, what needs to be legislated. Those will come up as local laws, and hopefully within the next few years we'll have a police department that fully meets the expectations of the community. So I guess then my next question is, does anyone have any questions?
I'm sure we'll have a number, Dannielle. Thank you very much for that overview. And it's a very detailed and comprehensive report. So you and the other members of the collaborative are to be commended. It has been covered, of course, in the press, and the Common Council has held meetings on it. But I guess I wonder if you get a lot of that focused on process, and regardless of whether some things in the properly detailed in the implementation plan, what do you think are the biggest recommendations that will bring effective change to policing in the city? And the second part is, where is the rub, if there is one? Are there really any major disagreements between the collaborative and their recommendations, what the mayor is advancing and what the Common Council wants to do, or is that just essentially still in motion? It's kind of hard to tell, frankly, from the public coverage of it. So that's the reason.
I would say, I'll answer the last one first. I would say that is still all in motion. We each wrote our own reports, and part of the process was not that the reports would match. So like, for instance, there's things that are in one report that are different in another report. So one group may have recommended changing, one group may have recommended eliminating. So there is still a lot of process. And that's going to be, at this point, the collaborative members are really going to be part of this process to explain why those decisions were made. Why did the group propose this as a change? And then the Common Council will take that along with the information that they get from the mayor's office, and will make the final decision as to which ones of the recommendations or which ones of the steps will actually be enacted. So that's still pretty fluid, and I think it will be probably for several more months, if not longer, because some of the items are going to take. There are items that are listed in the report that are either going to take long-term, like not long-term, but in-depth studies. There's also items in there that are going to require state legislation changes. So there are some that are going to be that are much longer term. So this conversation is going to go on for quite some time. With the other one, I think, in my personal opinion, I think that we should focus on items that can be corrected now. So one thing that we found, and I think it was echoed in almost all of the groups, was the data is not very usable. It lacks a lot of information that could better help us understand if the policy is beneficial or harmful. So, and if anyone knows, like, especially a minority, like, we tend to get tagged as the wrong race often. Like, I've been on a police report listed as white. And not because I told them I was white, but because they didn't bother to ask me what I was. So, and there's gaps in the data. Like, there's a lot of things going on that I think made it a little difficult to actually evaluate some of the policies. So I think that we can correct those, and that will give us a better understanding of how to move forward with some of the other stuff. Like, there's inconsistent language, or there's unupdated policies. Like, because my group did the general orders, like, we found policies that are actually illegal at this point because the state law has changed, but the department's own policies have not. Like, they have not been updated. From my understanding, memos go out, but the general document governing the department has not actually been updated. So I think that updating those and addressing the data issues would definitely help in the process of understanding which of these recommendations to apply and when to, and how and when to apply them. Because obviously the more information that we have and the better information that we have would lead to better fixes or better changes in the end.
Thank you. So we'll move it out to questions from the full group. I also want to, in particular, commend you for the focus on recruitment. It is a very tough issue for the city of Albany. Albany police officers, in terms of the workload, are far above their suburban counterparts. And as you pointed out, the pay is higher generally in the suburbs. So that is an issue. It's not one that Albany can deal with itself, but it's out there. So with that, if we could, one at a time, if there are questions for Dannielle. No one?
I hope that means I covered everything.
I'm not seeing anyone, but I can't see everyone on my screen. So if anybody has a question, feel free to begin.
Judy? Hi, Judy.
Go ahead, Judy, if you have the question.
Just unmute herself. No, you're still muted. Do you see that? Did it come up on the screen to ask? There you go.
Thank you very much. I'm appearing as Tom Keefe on my a label here because my husband has acquired a tablet and I'm his tech support, and it's ridiculous. I don't know how to operate this. I'm an Apple person. So I'm experimenting. So I just, Dannielle, thank you so much for all of your work on this, for your efforts at communicating with the community, throughout this process. And people did excellent work in terms of, crafting recommendations. Just for the people in attendance, I want them to know that there actually was a couple chapters that we've identified, and there might be more, in which a lot of parts of it did not wind up in the executive summary. And it's a little unclear, as to what that means. Ava Ayers, who I think helped co-chair or write or staff the section on community interactions, gave us a memo on Monday of 5 pages of omissions that were not reflected, recommendations that were not reflected. Mr. Kimbrough has said that the administration has indicated that they accept all of the recommendations in the report. So it's a little unfortunate that so many of them then don't have a time frame associated with it. And John, with regard to your question that Dannielle was trying to answer, one of the things that's missing from the plan really is who has the responsibility for implementing what parts of the plan and what recommendations. And that's a big part that has not been worked out. And when Dannielle says that the Common Council is going to approve parts of it, that actually has not been, the council expects to be involved, but in terms of the process and how things are implemented, and essentially we're asking for regular reports on implementation, and how we can help, and the council. So bottom line is that's a big missing piece that some of us had a fair amount of frustration that was not in the plan, because that's a critical part of a plan. How do you implement it, and who's responsible for that? So hopefully that's all going to be worked out, but I just wanted to let people know that Dannielle was being asked a question that's impossible to answer at this point because it really hasn't been addressed, and it's got to be addressed. And I just want to say, I wound up voting no on this because there were so many pieces missing from it being a plan. I've worked on many strategic plans in my life as a lawyer, worked for the Department of Health and with other organizations and the school board and that kind of thing. So there are some significant omissions in it, but nonetheless, I'm hopeful that because people are committed to pushing this issue, and we need to push this issue. I mean, it's so critical, and everything, we're having some more open and honest dialogues about what's going on in our country, that we need to continue having those conversations and needing to continue to work those problems and figure out a better way of doing things. So I just want to add that in, and
Thanks, Judy.
hope that's helpful to people.
Any more questions for Dannielle? All right. Well, Dannielle, thank you very much for attending tonight. We appreciate your time. And if we have other questions or concerns that come up, we'll get in touch with you via email. But thanks very much for joining us.
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'm probably just gonna watch. But
All
thanks
right.
for having me.
Okay. So we will now move to our second guest speaker, who's Scott Jim. I'm sorry, Scott, I always get your name wrong. Jim, are you with us yet, or is
He is
Melanie
not.
still?
I'm still the one stepping in for him
Okay.
this evening. Jarzambek.
Thank you.
It's a hard one.
Well, is he about to come in, or shall we go do some
No,
other
it will
business?
be me this evening. He's unable to
Oh,
attend this
okay.
evening.
So you're going to give us a community report on the library. Thanks so much.
Yes.
You're on.
So good evening, everybody. I'm Melanie Metzger. I'm the Assistant Director with Albany Public Library, taking Scott Jarzambek's place this evening, just in spirit, not totally taking over him. But you will hear from him because we have actually a recorded community report this year, kind of going along with our theme of doing everything virtual. We even made our community report as a package, a video package. So I'm going to play that for you and then have a little bit of talk at the end. And we'll have time for questions afterwards. So let me share my screen here. Are you able to see my screen? Good.
It's on, Melanie.
So,
Melanie, we have no
No.
audio. I can't hear anything.
It's not coming through. Yep.
I apologize on that. We'll try this again.
APL responded to the
thumbs up.
COVID-19 pandemic by crafting a measured, multi-phased, and science-based continuation of service plan. For the last 12 months, this plan has guided our decisions about providing service, programs, materials, and assistance in ways that are safe for both patrons and staff. The administration began to pay attention as this virus was rapidly expanding across the globe. With our talented operations staff, we began to craft safety protocols and ways to provide library service. APL was lucky to have trustees with knowledge and background in science and public health who were supportive of the plan staff had crafted. As with all of our personal and professional lives, our pandemic timeline is one of closures and reopenings, stops and starts, adjustments, and innovations. All of our buildings were closed from mid-March through the end of June, but that didn't mean we stopped serving the public. Staff spent these months working from home, creating on-demand story times and other videos, answering reference and assistance calls and emails, increasing the ebook collection, adding access to movies, TV shows, and more through the Hoopla service, and hosting live virtual programs. All of this work continues to this day. By June, the COVID numbers had decreased a bit, and we returned staff to the buildings to prepare for the return of some in-person services. Staff worked what we call redundancy schedules. This means half of the employees were in each building on any given week, so we had another crew ready to go in case the virus caused quarantines amongst the staff. Our facilities crew worked hard to get the buildings ready for staff and patrons. Masks, gloves, face shields, goggles, and hand sanitizer were purchased. Plexiglass shields were installed at desks and service points. Furniture, stacks, and equipment were moved to ensure safety and workflow. Signs were hung and directional markers and distancing markers were placed on the floors and walls. The curbside pickup service started in 2 branches in early July and was extended to 3 more locations a few weeks later. Patrons request books, DVDs, CDs, and audiobooks from the collection by phone, email, or their library account. Then visit their selected branch to get them via contactless curbside pickup. This popular service continues to be available at all 5 branches today. Our continuation of service plan allowed us to start opening branches for in-building services by appointment in September. Patrons used computers, got reference assistance from librarians, copied, printed, faxed, and scanned documents, and purchased CDTA Navigator passes inside our building, all by appointment to ensure safe distancing for everyone. By late fall, 3 buildings were providing these services. But as health service scientists had predicted, COVID cases started to rise sharply in December. This caused us to roll back a phase in our plan and stop in-building appointment services. But staff continued to provide all virtual services, programs, and material, as well as curbside pickup throughout the winter. Thankfully, we have been able to move ahead in big ways in the last month. We stopped redundancy scheduling and welcomed all staff back to the buildings for full weekly shifts. 3 branches resumed in-building appointment services in mid-February of 2021. The second week of March, we hit a big milestone by opening 2 more branches for in-building appointments and loosened up restrictions at 3 others to allow for use by headcount. To the delight of many, we started to welcome patrons in 5 branches to browse the collection. The following week, our largest branch opened to provide curbside pickup. As we speak, 6 of our 7 branches are open for some in-person services. As the COVID numbers continue to decline, we are planning to open up the branches even more. While we're not out of the woods yet, things are looking up. So that's the Cliff Notes version of our pandemic story. Now I'd like to do a deeper dive into some of the services we've been providing to give you more context and detail. Ebooks and audiobooks were the stars of the last year for many of our readers. You all read 122,000 ebooks in 2020. This was an increase of 38% above last year. Virtual reference staff answered 3,600 calls and 443 emails between mid-March and the end of December. They renewed library cards, helped people access COVID-19 resources, and assisted in downloading e-material and provided info about tax assistance. And as usual, they answered a lot of interesting questions. We were also able to provide direct access to information in the form of Wi-Fi. APL has been one of the only providers of free and reliable Wi-Fi to the public during the pandemic. In 2020 alone, almost 21,000 people used the Wi-Fi that extends outside our buildings. While sitting in your car in a library parking lot to log into your email or Zoom is far from ideal, this was the only option for some folks without reliable internet at home. And with the help of our friends and foundation, we will be extending the reach of this service in the near future. The pandemic gave staff an opportunity to flex their creative muscles and develop programs that patrons could access on demand in their own homes. We made, from scratch, 170 video programs in 2020, and those on-demand videos were watched almost 12,000 times. While we were making our own videos, we were planning for the return of live programs, but in the virtual realm. This too required staff to innovate, learn new technology, and present programs in a way that people could learn from and enjoy in a very different format. In the last 8 months of the year, we hosted 200 live virtual programs with a total of 3,000 participants. Once it was safe to return staff to the buildings in early June, we knew it was time to get physical materials into patrons' hands. More than 10,000 of you used Curbside between July and the end of December, and almost 39,000 items have been borrowed in this manner. Providing services inside our buildings was one of the bigger challenges we asked of our staff. It required a different service plan for each building, figuring out new workflow process, training staff, adjusting the physical spaces for social distancing, and those are just the big changes. So that brings us to today. We are seeing lower COVID numbers. More and more people in our community are getting vaccinated. 6 of our libraries are open for select services, and we are busy planning the next phases of APL's pandemic operations. In the coming months, you can look forward to increased access to in-building services for more people at a time, opening the majority of our locations, regular hours at our branches, the return of in-person programs, use of study rooms and meeting rooms again. In short, we're working our way toward life in the library much like it was when the pandemic began. Some of the safety precautions we are taking now will remain, including wearing a mask while in the building, as will some of the new services you've come to love, like virtual programs and curbside pickup. We aren't in control of this journey, the virus is, but be assured that everyone at Albany Public Library is doing their best to give you the services, programs, and materials you need and enjoy while we travel it together.
When I think back on how we transitioned branch services at APL this year, the words safety and resilience are at the forefront. We safely launched Curbside Pickup, and this was the first time in APL history that our patrons could borrow materials contact-free. Curbside was so popular that it became the sole focus at a couple of our branches for most of the year. Over the winter, our facilities crew worked harder than ever to keep our walkways clear so staff could run materials out to vehicles in inclement weather. It was a challenging year for sure as we adapted to new services, new workflows, and new location assignments. APL staff were so resilient and the community response has been so great. Those moments where we saw the true impact of our work made every effort we made in 2020 worth it.
Just because COVID's really added an extra layer of learning to how we're going to manage our facilities going forward. Thinking about safety now, thinking about, different ways on how we interact and how to be creative with keeping the same personable experience in the library and educating people and being able to serve people, but also do it in a way that we can try to be a little bit safer from the airborne items that can make people sick.
I've been doing story times at APL for over 12 years now. Creating recorded story times was a bit challenging at first, but it's rewarding to hear from people in the community about how much they love our storytime videos. I'm proud of us and how we've been able to continue providing story times to the little ones in our community during this pandemic.
Here's my 3D printer setup, and all I have to do is hit print. We'll have another face mask go in the box to send over to have the transparencies added so they work as functional face masks.
All these virtual programs that we're doing would not be possible without the digital divide getting closed. So many people now having Zoom on their phones or Zoom on their computers, the community had to go out of its way in order to learn these technologies. And now that they have them, they've become a tool of ways that we can help the community out and bring things forward.
I talked to a lot of the patients that come and they just can't wait to get back here. A lot of people depend on this library. A lot of children love coming here. So I think that this will be a great thing that we're reopening and people will be able to browse in this library.
Thank you, Scott and Melanie, for that presentation. Questions that Melanie can help us out with based on the presentation. Anyone? Virginia? You need to unmute, Virginia. Unmute.
Okay. I thought Melanie said at the beginning after the little presentation she was going to add some things, or did you want to?
If possible, yeah. Just a couple quick things. We do want to mention that this year we are not going out for a budget increase. This is the third year in a row that we've been able to not go out for a vote for a budget increase. And this spending plan was approved unanimously by the Board of Trustees. There will be no public vote, but we do want to mention that there are 2 board positions open this year for full 5-year terms. So while we won't have a vote for the budget on the ballot this May, we will have 2 positions open. And we are also looking for candidates to run for those 2 positions. So the information is available on our website. I will actually copy the link here and give it to you guys in the chat if I'm able to. I don't think I'm able to chat, unfortunately. I'm not seeing that option. Let's see. Can I? No, I cannot chat. So if you just go to our website, the information is available on our website, www.albanypubliclibrary.org, and the candidate packets are there. Just going back on the budget, we're able to do so. We're able to go without the budget increase because we are taking a couple small precision cuts throughout the whole system through each department. So a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit there, just stuff that we know we could save some money on with the reduced services that we are most likely going to experience for a short bit more time. So we were able to do that. Plus, we have been really lucky. We do have a fund balance, and our fund balance was designed specifically for this reason. For when we're in emergency situations, major global events that affect our budget, we do have a little bit of a safety net to plug into should we need to. So we are expecting to use about $350,000 from our fund balance to cover any overages that we're expecting. But we will see. We're hoping if we can open up services sooner rather than later, we might not have to dip too much into that. So that is all the additional information I need to say. I do want to thank everybody. Oh, I saw Deanna's beautiful face here, and I do want to thank Deanna DiCarlo, who is our head of branches. She is in charge of our Pine Hills and Bach branches. She's with me tonight. And it's because of her and her wonderful staff at both the Pine Hills and Bach neighborhoods that we have been able to open up as wonderfully and as smoothly as we have up to this point. So I do want to give her a round of applause with her and her team.
That's amazing. Thank you. And we are so looking forward to seeing everybody back at the library as soon as we possibly can. Come in and browse while you can. We would love to see you. Thank you all so much. And thank you, Melanie, for that.
Can I just ask Melanie if we can get the recording? How might we get the link to the recording that we just heard from Scott?
So neighborhood associations are getting first viewing of it. So we're waiting probably for about a week or 2 until we can present to most of the neighborhood associations, and then it will also be posted to our website.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions for Melanie?
I'm just wondering, how are the library staff doing in being vaccine eligible? I saw there's been a push for that.
So that's actually very dear to my heart. I've been commenting to many people on this. As of yesterday, library staff is eligible through the governor's ordinance that we are eligible for the vaccine. And I will tell you, it's been very heartwarming to see the staff pull together. I have staff helping other staff sign up for the vaccine. I have staff that they know that, individuals might be more busy than others. So they're like, you know what, instead of you spending your whole night hitting the refresh button to get those appointments, let me do it for you. I actually am signed up for a vaccine appointment tomorrow. And I was willing to drive, so I'm driving a little bit out of the area to do so. And I had somebody come into me this morning and said they were concerned about me driving out of the area. And am I going to be safe, because they found out that there was a vaccine appointment tomorrow locally that I could switch over to. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. My husband and I are actually going together and figuring it's going to be a slight romantic date driving to go get our have a nice little road trip to go get our vaccine. But it's been absolute. That's the one thing I have to say. It has been absolutely amazing is the community support in helping us advocate for library staff to get their vaccines. We had a lot of community support going out to legislators to help us with that, and just the individual staff support. So we got a good chunk if they haven't gotten it already due to other eligibilities that are planning within the next couple weeks or couple months to get theirs. So we're well on our way to having a majority vaccinated staff. I can't say fully vaccinated staff for obvious reasons, but
Very good news. Thank you.
yes.
Any other questions? Well, I do want to, I think we've said it several different times, but we're very grateful for all the services you provide, and particularly during the pandemic, helping us out with Zoom and some other issues. We are looking forward to the day when you can open your doors again for public meetings. We don't know how long that will be, but we're looking forward to you doing it, and hopefully to having our meetings there in future. It will help because obviously the library is going to be studying this, and we'll know when it is safe and okay to do so. And for that reason, we won't have to make that call. So we're happy to look to your institution for doing that for us. So we look forward to getting back there, and let's hope it's soon in whatever context that should be, the current
Definitely.
situation.
Well, thank you very much. And once again, what we do, we're always available, by phone, by email, and through our website. There's also ways to contact us through that as well. So if there's anything that you think of in the future that you want to pick our brains about with the budget, with the candidacies, with what's been going on in the pandemic in the library world, just let us know. We'll be happy to answer your questions.
Thanks, we will.
Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you. You guys
Thank you,
too.
everyone.
So we'll move along, but we thank both our guests, Dannielle Hille and Scott Jarzambek. There, I got it both times. Trying to make up for earlier foibles. Now it's time for our committee and officer and other reports. We're going to start out with the Committee on University and Community. Luke Rumsey, who has done a lot of things and does them continually, and helped us make many of the improvements we have made since the notorious cakes and eggs St. Patrick's Day parties years ago. But we're past St. Patrick's Day, right?
We are on the other side, yes. And I want to give a shout out to APD for assisting us this weekend. It was the first year in 10 years where we had our students in town as a result of the pandemic, and in consultation with the State Department of Health, we decided that it'd probably be best to keep them here as opposed to sending them all over the place and then bringing them back here where they could potentially spread the virus, et cetera, and whatever else. And so it worked out pretty well, I think. I appreciate, again, Albany Police Department assisting us in that endeavor. We had University Police. I was down there as well. And there were some gatherings, but it was very well maintained and controlled, which was really awesome. And St. Patrick's Day was yesterday, and we saw no issues. So that was a really good thing. Just a few updates on my end. We had the university had announced to our student population here last week, 2 weeks ago, recently, that we are planning to do a in-person return for fall of 2021. So there will be some COVID overlay with that, meaning that we'll still be requiring students to wear masks. We'll still be doing our pool testing and checking for the virus, but we are anticipating that our primary mode of instruction will be in person. So that's a good thing. We'll have the majority of our students back in our residence halls and in the community, and so that's all well and good. Our community cleanup assistant program, which was launched and piloted this semester, is in full swing. We have 8 students who are going out on a weekly basis, and they are targeting areas between Washington and Myrtle, and between Lake and Maine, and they're picking up the community. And that's what they do. Every week they're out a couple hours a week for each person, and they're getting class credit for that. That's excellent. I'm getting pictures of all the bags of trash that they're bringing in each day, which is pretty cool. And I'm going to make a big mosaic of it at the end of the semester. And so we hope to double that for the fall. So hopefully we'll get 15 to 20 individuals out there weekly doing some cleanups. I think I had mentioned this to Carolyn at our last meeting, but the big event is on for April 24th. So that's our UAlbany Day of Service. If any of you know of any service opportunities that our students can get involved in, please let me know. You can reach out to me offline. We are looking for both virtual and in-person events. And so if we have in-person events that can be small and maintain the COVID guidelines, our students do want to get some hands-on experience off campus. And so feel free to forward those to me. And then last but not least, our COVID transmission rate is very, very low right now. Our daily positivity is well below 1%, which is great. And as of yesterday, I don't know if any of you saw it. We put it out on social, but we celebrated our 100,000th vaccine to date on campus. And so for the vaccination site, we hit 100,000 shots as of yesterday. So that's excellent. That was really great. And I think that's about it. Our next CUCR meeting is going to be the second Thursday in April. And our hope is to focus on litter and trash at that meeting. And we should be good to go from there. Any questions, comments, threats, concerns, bribes? No. Darn. John, back to you.
Okay. Well, now we go to our Neighborhood Engagement Unit Officer, Joe Acquaviva.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Look, you're a little soft.
Yeah, I don't know why. I apologize for that. So I've been up at the training center teaching our next batch of recruits, but I have been keeping ears out for the neighborhood, and I haven't heard any real problems going on in the neighborhood. In fact, since the last 30-day period, our violent crime is way down in comparison. So things look like they're getting back to what we're used to for Pine Hills.
Any question?
Yeah, I mean, does anybody have any questions or comments? Anything that I should be aware of?
Hey,
Leah?
Joe. Yeah, I just, you had sent me an email of the person who's replacing Sheila, and I have the email, but I don't have it in front of me. Do you know if he has started yet? And
I don't know. I know that he's slated to come. He did reach out. I think he reached out to Owusu to introduce himself. I'm pretty sure by this coming Monday, he'll be starting. But his name is Matt Carey. He actually started on the Albany Police Department about 6 months after me. So he's another 23 plus year veteran of the police department, and he'll be in Pine Hills during the morning hours from 8 to 4. And obviously, in my absence, if anything needs some attention, I'm sure Matt would have no problem assisting and taking care of it for the other hours as well.
Hey, Joe, what's the person's name who's replacing Sheila?
Matt Carey.
Clarity?
Carey, Carey.
So I assume that he would take over the beat, as the neighborhood representative too, for like the Damien Center area?
Well, so
eventually
I'm actually the nighttime guy now. Like it used to be Sheila had the one half and I had the other half. Now we have the whole thing as a whole.
Oh,
so he'll be taking care of the whole thing as a whole on days. And when I get back from my temporary assignment, I'll be there in the evening time.
Okay. Well, keep me on speed dial if you need me over there.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Serious.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Joe.
I got a question.
Yes, John.
Joe, I heard you are not going to be doing this area anymore. Are you moving on to something else or what?
So I took a temporary assignment. My temporary assignment is at the police academy, where I'll be mentoring the next group of recruits that are getting ready to come out on the street. And so for about 6 months, I'll be sort of MIA, but I'll still be around. I'll obviously be checking in on all the meetings. And if something needs to be addressed, you're more than welcome to reach out to me. And if I can't handle it, I'll find somebody to do that.
Because we miss you.
I miss you all too.
Yeah, I guess I want to say thanks, Joe, and let everyone know that he has been checking his emails because he's been responding to me. So really appreciate that, because I know you're busy at the academy. So thanks for remembering us in the neighborhood.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
I'll second that. Thank you for your help the other day, Joe. Very helpful. So I guess not seeing any more questions, we'll move on to zoning and code enforcement. Leah.
Okay, so there is one item on the BZA agenda. Wait a second, before I even go to that, let me just quickly ask Joe what if there have been any recent code walks that you need to report to us on, because I know that the sergeant likes to give that information also.
You know, we hadn't done one because we were waiting for codes to catch up with the paperwork and stuff like that. And then it got really, really cold. So now as the weather's breaking, we can certainly look into doing some of those again and start that going around and hitting up different parts of Pine Hills.
Okay, thanks, Joe. So basically, Joe, you were breaking up a little bit there, but there has basically what I heard from Joe is they haven't done any recent code walks because it got really, really cold, but it's quite likely, if desired, for them to start back up again. And maybe also they were waiting for codes to get back to them on some things. That could be the issue too. Okay, great. So there is one item before the Board of Zoning Appeals. There have been 2 workshops on it that I attended, and I know Virginia attended. I don't know, I can't recall if any other committee members have been on that. Somebody's not muted, and so we're hearing background noise. Anyhow, the item on the agenda is a porch on South Pine. And in fact, the Zoning and Code Enforcement Committee met tonight to discuss this. We had discussed this previously with the applicant before they submitted their application to the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is a porch replacement, and there are basically 3 issues that it was rejected for, so that the applicant was rejected for. The most relevant issue is building materials, because the applicant is building the porch back with some different materials than the original material. So that's really been the crux of the discussion on the BZA. Tonight, this is hot off the presses, tonight the Zoning and Code Enforcement Committee of the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association did meet, and we decided to support the application before the BZA. So that means we are supporting the neighbors at 41 South Pine and their application. And I'll be sending an email out to the board with that recommendation. For the board to take a full vote, I'll also provide a brief summary of the major issues and how we came to this decision, and then we will want the board to vote pretty quickly, because the item is on next week's BZA hearing agenda. which I believe is the 24th. So that's the update from the Zoning and Code Enforcement Committee. Thanks. Oh, any questions? Sounds like none. Awesome.
Thanks, Leah. Midtown Pine Hills Improvement Group, Carolyn Keefe.
So I don't have a lot to report because I haven't been around. As some of you know, I was in Buffalo taking care of my mom who was recovering from COVID for 2 months. So Leah has been coordinating the meetings for Pine Hills Improvement Group. And I'll invite her to do any updates. Before I do that, we do have our next meeting this Monday at 6:30 p.m. on Zoom, and I will be sending out a reminder. And if there's anybody, and then I will also automatically send the link out to people who've been attending. But if there's anybody who's interested in attending and wants to get back to us or wants to participate in that, just, send me an email or reply to the email that I send out to the Google group. Leah, do you have any updates about what's been happening with Midtown Pine Hills?
I really don't. Basically, I gave the update. Did we meet last? No, we did not
No,
meet
it's
last.
CUCR
So,
you gave it. Oh, I see.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah. The Pine Hills Neighborhood Association did not meet in February. Am I correct on that? So if that's, I believe I'm correct on that. So there is the one update about the mural, which is really, we can thank Virginia for that, but County Legislator Bararo Efekaro had identified grant funding for a mural, and it was decided that it would be in the Midtown Pine Hills neighborhood. Again, somebody is not muted, and there's a lot of background noise.
We're not hearing it, but it may just be on your system.
No, I'm hearing it as well. And I was muted.
John, I think it's you.
Yeah, it's you, John.
Well, it was, but now you're muted.
Okay.
Apologies,
Okay.
I'm not hearing it at all, but well, I'll stay muted. It's hard
Well,
because I don't know
why
when
would
you're
you?
gonna stop. Okay, here we go.
Right. All good. Yeah, so thanks to Virginia for, we have an artist who is going to be doing a mural that I believe is health and safety related, hopefully on the Ontario side building of the House of Glass at Madison and Ontario, that location. So that's really exciting. That is what happened at our February meeting that's what happened at our January meeting. At our February meeting of whatever. That was at one meeting. And then the next meeting, we just got updates from these guys. We got updates from Luke, we got updates from Joe, and there was really nothing else discussed. Am I correct on that, Luke? Joe?
Thanks, Leah. The only other thing I would add is the Neighborhood Association has written a letter to the mayor's office to talk to them about both more trees in Midtown Pine Hills, well, in Pine Hills in general, but particularly in Midtown Pine Hills, and also to start a conversation about addressing the issues with blacktop in the maintenance strips between streets and sidewalks, and there's also blacktop on front yards. So hopefully there will be some follow-up with the mayor's office on that. As far as I know, that's all we have, but if you would like to participate in our conversations, we will be meeting on Monday. I also thank you to Luke for the trash and litter program that the university has going. And I know that subcommittee hasn't made a lot of progress on education around this for students, but hopefully with some of the new things that DGS is doing, we can dovetail with that, and we'll be, working together on that as well. So thank you all very much.
Thanks, Carolyn. On the note, you mentioned our letter on the paving strips and their removal in connection with the new tree program. David Gallen did reach out They're discussing it with DGS and others, and we do expect to be sitting down with them, so we'll be checking back on that. But thanks for bringing that up. With that, let's go to the Upper Madison Association and Maryland. I believe you'll be doing the report tonight. Upper Madison Group, Maryland. You're not on. We can't hear you. You need to unmute. Unmute.
No, I'm pressing the thing up on my face. The Upper Madison Group has been working very closely with our public partners, which includes DGS and the Albany Parking Authority, and also with several of our private partners that include Verstandig's, George's Nursery in Latham, and the Madison Theater, and Price Chopper. And all of this is in aid of improving and beautifying and the Price Chopper block and the Juniors block, because we want to see them to showcase Upper Madison. One of the things that we've done is to add trees. Virginia has worked with Verstandig's to make sure that we're going to have a beautiful display of flowers for our planters, which we received from the Albany Parking Authority. We'll have those installed this summer. We've got Billy Stanley, one of our neighbors, who is going to handle the watering of those planters. And we're hoping that we can find a way to help Price Chopper to improve the pedestrian safety in their parking lot. And also we're looking to develop a nice area along the Price Chopper wall to make it a much more attractive and an area where people will enjoy sitting, perhaps having a snack, or just talking with friends or what have you. Our next meeting is March 30th, and we meet in person. We'll be at the Madison Theater at 3:30 on Tuesday, March 30th. And any of you who are free at that time are more than welcome to join us, because we've got lots of good things happening. Questions? Thank you.
Treasurer, Eric.
Okay, good evening. So we've been finally successful at getting the address changed on our Trustco. So on our Trustco account, so the statement comes to my house now versus the Hammers have been getting it at their house for the last year. So that was finally, and we did get all the signature cards straightened out. So that's good. And I did apply for the online access a few days ago, so they were helpful in that. So it's been a journey working with Trustco on that. We added the Stripe, or John added the Stripe, the ability to use credit cards off the website, so that now those deposits come in and hit our Trustco bank directly, the account directly. They don't have to be moved. So that's been good. So people can pay with a credit card versus having to go to PayPal and then sign up for PayPal if they want to do that. And so currently on the PayPal balance, we have $132.90. We have the Trustco account is at $5,035.21. 837 of that is the Madison Park grant that's still being held with us. We did get some renewals, and we did get a gift from and if I got this right, I had to reread it a few times. It was from Marilyn and Peter for $200. So that was, and I think I didn't. Took me a second to figure this out, but I think it was a it's a donation to us from them. So that was very nice. And that's it. I don't know if there's any questions.
No questions, but Eric, well, John
Yep.
may have one. It's probably the same thing. John is still getting, I believe, notifications from Stripe when memberships are renewed or donations made. Maybe it just hasn't crossed over from Trusco yet, having changed the emails of who gets those, but he's still getting them. So
Okay.
I'm also getting the bank statement.
Yeah, I got the last one here. So I got the one in
What's
March.
the date on that?
3/7.
Okay, I think I have one in February. Okay.
Yeah,
so
you probably
switch
did.
it over.
Okay. Yeah, so we finally.
As they say, never mind.
2/7. Yeah, you dropped a couple off the other day or a couple weeks ago. So yeah, finally that was a journey.
Well, we should hold a party now that the formal transition.
We are. It's right now.
Finally been effectuated. But you know, it would be a great test of this. We're just telling our membership now to go ahead and renew online. If all of the board members would do so, we can be sure, because then Eric, you should get the new notifications from Stripe whenever someone pays. If they're still going to John, we still have a bit of a problem.
Yeah, as it should. Yeah, we can work that out. They should bounce. They should be sent to the Pine Hills treasurer email. So that would be the only way they would get there. So.
Well, somehow, yeah, I don't know why it's happening, but if it keeps happening, we'll need to do some more detective work.
Yep. Okay. The only other thing in general is that I actually do receive the Times-Union, a physical paper every day, and there was an insert in there from the city of Albany for their hazardous waste collection. So I've done that a couple times, or I've had extra paint or whatever to get rid of. So that's, or electronics or whatever. I just encourage people to use that instead of throwing them out at the curb and letting them sit there for 2 months. And there is a TV sitting on Madison that I turned in last week. So anyways, yeah, so I just encourage people to use that. That's, it's a free service. You just got to take the stuff up to the landfill.
It would be nice if we could get that on our website.
Yeah, there's just a link to it. AlbanyNYRecycles.com is the, and then there's a list of the 2021 events, and you do have to sign up. I don't know how, you have to pre-register and say that you live in the city. So I don't know if they check IDs or not. A couple times I've gone, they didn't, but so yeah, it's worthwhile. Obviously, you gotta, it's part of the cleanup used, and they take pretty much everything. Paint, all that kind of stuff, gas, motor oil, stuff like that. If you have used the little cans from the batteries, any kind of pest control stuff, fertilizers you want. Actually, yeah, I got to get rid of some fertilizer too. So mercury light bulbs. So, yep, it's definitely better than chucking them in the trash. So,
John, did you have anything else on membership to report tonight?
Yeah, we have 168 members. However, that represents still all of our 2020 members. I have not done any of the renewals yet because the problem that I'm having is with the new system, when somebody rejoins on the website using Stripe, is that what it's called?
John, can we do this offline? It's kind of a technical discussion.
Okay, but I just want people to know, I have not yet sent any renewal reminders out, but I am about to do so, yes?
Yeah, we'll do so in concert, so we have one list going out. We're hopeful that a number of people will renew from the general announcement. If that's not the case, we can do an email to everyone, but we've gotten about 5 so far. And The strike notifications aren't the things that will tell you or anyone else who's signed up. It's a list that is collected by the website as they pay. So we have to make sure that that's working smoothly. But the first step will be for people to renew. So don't hold back. Renew today. You can do so online. And if you'd like to send a check instead, you can do that as well. The instructions and address are online on our website.
Okay. One of the things that I do is I also send it to people who didn't renew last year, and we usually get a couple of hits. So in other words, if you send a reminder out on the website now, you're not going to hit everybody. But I will wait for you, and we will get together and do this.
Great.
Otherwise, we have 168.
Wonderful. So elected officials, I know that Judy was here. I'm looking to see who else is here. And Judy may have left as well. I'm no longer seeing her on the list. Well, it's possible that what we heard from Julie was it for our local electeds this month. I'm sure if they were here, they would have spoken up by now. So our next meeting will be April 15th, where we'll have representatives of the City of Albany School District, and we're not sure who yet, but we will have members here. Then on May 20th, Mayor Sheehan will be our guest. And on June 17th, we do not have a program yet, but we will soon, I'm sure. That would be our last meeting of the spring, as over the summer we do not have meetings, but we will, sorry, I must have pressed the wrong button and cut off the video, but we will have meetings beginning again September. We don't know at that time whether they will continue solely virtual on Zoom or whether we'll be having them in person. That depends on how things go and what the evolving protocols and safety measures are. But we can hope that by sometime next fall, we'll be having meetings in person again. With that, if there's nothing else, we'll see you next month. Thanks, everyone.